Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You are watching the Joe Cupcake Chronicles. This is a 6-hour production broken into 5 parts. Each part has 3 segments and 12 chapters. Today we are in Volume 4, titled Joe's Checkered Present. This title came about. Joe is asleep and his wife is having a dream, and he's woken by his wife and she's going, he's got a checkered past. And in the morning, Joe's maybe thinking she's talking about him, so he inquires in the morning, and his wife can't remember what she was dreaming about, so it wasn't him. But Joe Cupcake liked the idea of being bad. I mean, who doesn't? He also didn't like the idea of being bad in the past. He liked the idea of being bad in the present and the future, of course. So in this, he visualizes himself with these beautiful Vogue models from the 1950s, Dovima and the luscious Susie Parker. In this episode also, a bit of Ecclesiastes. We've got Susie Parker, we have Ecclesiastes. So, what are you actually watching on the screen? How is this put together? So again, the idea was to do what is very simple. It has to look handmade. I envision the Joe Cupcake Chronicles, which are 6 hours long, as a continuous collage. It's all about juxtaposition. It's all about layered imagery. It's all about being handmade. In other words, you can't go and steal stuff off the internet and put it on and call that a background. It doesn't really work. So you have to get your hands in this art form, and you have to develop your own language. And so one of Joe Cupcake's quests was to develop a language, create an artistic language that would express his thoughts, which he found difficult to express. Joe is envisioning the world as a poet. He's trying to give some voice to what he sees in the everyday and what's happening there. And in that, he finds a way to infuse his life with a little soul. And his job is helped a little bit by meeting Picasso. And it's 1904, the Bateau de Voix in France. Joe Cupcake is there with Apollinaire and Max Jacob, with the lovely Fernand Oliver, and Picasso and his poets and his muse. And it is the Rose period, or as some call it, the Pink period. Picasso is not yet famous. What he's discovered is these harlequins. What they're using as their imagery is the images of harlequins, which were on candy boxes and soap boxes, and these were jugglers and magicians who performed in the public square. They were kind of the kitschy image of the day, and he used these images to express his tribe's own alienation and aspirations. And here they are channeling Max Jacob and Apollinaire and Picasso, channeling these images onto the canvas. And here they are showing up through Picasso. And it would have been just an awesome thing to witness. And of course, Joe was there. And later in 1926, these 3 men, Apollinaire, Max Jacob, Picasso, together with their masks on, playing music, and Joe Cupcake is there to take the picture, and that, of course, is 3 musicians. Joe Cupcake. Existential everyman. A believer in nothing, a believer in everything. A striver on the mystic's path, with arms open to receive grace on a dark, cold planet. Ambition didn't drive him, or the desire to be admired, or thoughts of fame or money. He was proud of a job well done and wanted to be respected in the community. He picked up stray garbage and had never been arrested for a DUI. But he was often clumsy and not particularly conscientious. His most ardent supporters agreed that Joe was half a crackpot, and even Joe didn't know which half was cracked. All the same, Joe reveled in the sheer uncanny beauty and sublimely surprising wonderment of life. Precious, never to be squandered. No excuses. Breathe in, breathe out. God bless. In the Bible, whole civilizations live and die in a single sentence. Empires come and go. There is a moment of perfection, and then things crumble. The stories of our lives can be told with the same compression. Parents die, siblings go their way. Everything has its rise and fall. Passions flame and cool. We make friends, we lose friends. As we get older, we lose more than we make. Life is short. The present is fleeting, here then gone, like a love note lost out the car window, maybe a heart scribbled on the wrapper of a Carl's Jr., a flash of white whipping back in the rear view, then vanish down the highway to nestle with tumbleweeds and cigarette packets and sacred scrolls handwritten on papyrus, littered along a barbed wire fence. Joe wanted to advance, evolve, grow, progress, develop, mature, absorb the new information, be a thinker, expand his horizons, acquire wisdom, have a radiant glow, be mindful. He wanted to be sensitive and elegant, and yet, for all Joe's strivings, he was a masterpiece of imperfection. Inside his mind, revolutionary radicals had papered signs. We must sweep and clear, avoid non-utilitarian pleasure. Unfortunately, everything about Joe spoke opposite of anything utilitarian. Joe was all about pleasure, especially in his dreams. He often met exotic women in his dreams. He had a knack. Paris Vogue models from the 1950s with mind-bending potions were ballerinas who could stretch and bend and change shapes. It was always that one moment in love when everything is easy and possible. And Joe especially liked that he didn't have to worry if he had enough cash on him to pay the bar bill. The models were waving bubble wands and bubbles were everywhere when suddenly Joe's dream was interrupted by his wife. She was mumbling in her sleep, "He has a checkered past, a checkered past." Joe, feeling a tinge of guilt that she might have been referring to him, asked in the morning, but his wife said she couldn't remember who or what she was dreaming about. But he kind of liked the idea of being bad, and he felt inspired he could see it, his next opus, My Checkered Present. The story would be simple enough. On one side of a checkered wall, people sang and danced, and on the other side lived Joe, as weary-hearted as the hollow moon. But if he could find the secret door to the other side, he could be charming and dashing and say things like, "Remember, baby, you're not a criminal until they pull you over." Joe, pen in hand, conjured up 2 Paris Vogue models from the night before, Susie Parker and the delicious Dovima. He heard a murmur of soft words, felt
soft lips. He was sequestered in a closet with Susie when Davima opened the door. Furious, she bolted into the street, banged on the door of a taxi. No luck. Then she threw herself on the hood of a checkered cab, and this time a door opened. Joe watched her drive away and sang, "Hey, jealous lover, how wrong can you be? Hey, jealous lover." Then he put down his pen. A good day's work. Joe believed in the ritual of pen to paper, but his was not an easy story to tell. Joe's was the circular route, the non-goal-oriented route, the impressionistic way of storytelling. His life was not transitions that went from action to action, adventure to adventure, even scene to scene. Joe went from aspect to aspect, blending into the bigger picture, and so, as leaves fall and skitter across his lawn, he is along for the ride, spinning and swirling, topsy-turvy, caught in a sudden updraft, twirling and churning in a funnel, rising. Then the gust subsides, the center won't hold, and he floats to earth several feet from where he started. That's how it was for Joe. He was severely art damaged, but he did his best to infuse his world with soul. Joe was content like this, even happy, notwithstanding the refrain in the night. Am I completely mad? Still, those who seek beauty will always find it. The mystery is everywhere, visible all around you. And Joe tuned in for the miracle every day. He approached life as a poet. He believed poetry was stripping away, unmasking, simplification, coaxing meaning out of disarray, prayer made manifest, the naked object and the isolated self. Joe, barefoot on his cold stone patio, sipped his wine, listened to the river in the valley below, gazed up at the winter night sky, and made out the constellations of Cancer, Gemini, Canis Minor, Orion, Lepus, Auriga, Taurus, Aries, Triangulum, Andromeda, Cetus, and Canis Major. He experienced the sensation of traveling back in time and thought, time is not a straight line. It meanders back and forth in search of the present moment. Long, long ago, Cicero, standing in his own garden, looked up at those same stars. Said Cicero, "If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need." A garden, a library, and decent wine at 10% off, thought Joe. Very civilized. Joe, tipsy and careful not to fall into the swimming pool, was transported to summer. He could hear the clink of glasses and laughter and splashing, and could feel the warmth of the sun, and there were his flowers in their glory, and there he was, making his special sangria. Joe had gotten this recipe from a scene in Federico Fellini's Juliet of the Spirits. "All art is autobiographical," said Fellini. "Even if I set out to make a film about a fillet of sole, it would be about me." Which prompted Joe to ask, what if the movie was about a cupcake? La dolce cupcake, sweet cupcake, sweet Joe. Oh, oh, oh. Joe would be a hustler with a rakish hat and a conquering grin who could spin magic out of thin air with a frisky camera and a bouncy score. Joe saw himself as a trickster, a joker, a rogue with cards up his sleeve who would charm the audience with a knowing nod and wink. And of course there would be a peacock displaying its tail feathers in a blizzard of snow. The critics would say, startling and perplexing, stunningly modern, on the verge of illumination, a withering commentary, Gomer Pyle meets Louis Gomer, perverse, inane, a clash between reason and imagination, sensitively directed, this year's must-see event. The action takes place in a dream city, 2 or 3 cities combined, impossible cities with improbable dwellings. The love story sizzles. There is jealousy and betrayal, the offbeat and grotesque incident, and more plot twists and turns than a large intestine. There is a car chase, mistaken identity, and multicolored swans that want to kill him. The dame is a beautiful ruin, best displayed in diffused light. A cynical wit, a sharp tongue, nice hair, nice legs, yeah, you'd fall too. But how could she fall for Eddie Mars? Or is it Joe she really loves? Joe, now venerated in the academy, who'd started out as a subversive street punk. Rumors swirl, innuendo is rampant. Interlopers lurk in the shadows, and all the usual sins, but nothing money can't fix. The conversation sparkles, and the air of ideas is the only air worth breathing as the camera carousels around a grand dinner table. Joe says, "If the shoe fits, wear it. But what if it is the wrong color, and what if you can only find one shoe?"
One shoe, you hop. A man like you, intoxicated with life, sees visions, not snakes,
said the seditious writer. And it's all a miracle, adds the painter. It's a miracle one does not dissolve in one's bath like a lump of sugar. Indeed, agrees the film critic. All art is sleight of hand. And all you need for a movie is a gun and a girl. Pow pow, bang bang. To which the flirtatious photographer adds, and a dash of bad taste never hurts. Then she asks to take Joe's picture.
I'd be flattered, he smiles, but I must warn you, my dark side is my best side. And it is only now that the actress speaks, softly, her eyes lowered. We remember who hurt us, not who we hurt, but our sins, Joe. Do we pay? And if so, what is the darkest part of hell? Baby, he says, it's all dark when they turn out the lights. Yes, well, but what about the opening scene? Bubbles, says Joe. Lots of bubbles. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them, and they flew. Guillaume Apollinaire. Joe noted the landscape in the Paris sky, with islands of gold and silver, promontories of apricot and rose, against a background of turquoise and indigo. He'd slipped through time and space to join the young Picasso, huddled with his poets, Max Jacob and Apollinaire, and with his lover, the exotic Fernand Oliver, the muse of the Bateau Le Bois. It was 1904, the early rose period. Joe sipped a blend of absinthe and brandy, while Max Jacob danced and chanted and evoked magic with his fingertips, as Picasso and Apollinaire melded into a single imagination. The pen would explain and defend the painting. The brush would color the poem. They were hungry, broke, arrogant, a wild pack of genius, with opium-tinted dreams, channeling new tribal totems manifesting on Picasso's canvas. Pierrots wreathed in roses, pale ghosts who prowl at night. Harlequins, columbines, and punchinellos with crooked noses, whose surface sweetness did not mask the defiance and alienation at the core. Daddy wouldn't buy me a bow wow, but I have a little cat, and I'm very fond of that. Fernand sang while Joe attacked with his camera. Click, click, click. Capturing Max, Pablo, and Guillaume wearing masks and playing flutes. A picture that wouldn't develop until 1921, and later known to the world as Three Musicians. Joe's next outing with the gang of Picasso was in the City of Angels. Joe, behind the wheel, driving west on Sunset, on the quest for sacred fire, winding down the PCH, night blooming jasmine, redolent in the air. Windows open, music cranked, smoke swirling, and everyone's faces morphing into other faces. Joe remembered changing arms and legs, silver and blue waves, a red night sky, and a dancer from Shanghai who read palms. Someone lit sparklers and bodies intertwined, and who did what with whom remains murky. Joe didn't hear from Picasso for another 5 years when a postcard arrived. Bonjour, Joe. Brock and Juanito and I are inventing cubism. Wish you were here. You, the original cube. You, the one who always told me, stay true to your ism. A big kiss to you, old chum, but no tongue. Pablo. The postcard was adorned with cubist elements. Pipe, dice, guitar, mandolin, violin, and an ace of spades. Joe cherished this postcard, although at one rough patch in his life, he tried to sell it to Christie's. Unfortunately, the postmark was June 11th, 1991, 18 years after the painter of harlequins had ceased to be. Another year gone. Calendar months whirled off the wall like a movie cliche. April, not Paris, but not bad. August and September, still floating in the deep end of the pool. May, stuck in the bush with the date circled, a dentist appointment Joe couldn't remember. December, October, March, November, no order to any of this. And images jumbled the same way. A maple leaf frozen in ice, a white sky above. But now it was June, and this year's problems had replaced last year's problems. Only an inch of daylight left. Joe watched hills black against the sky while hawks circled. He heard wild cries of anguish bouncing off the side valley walls, arbitrary roaming forces, a muffled song, dark and unrestrained. Moths were everywhere, restless spirits in the trees. The oak moths were devastating the whole valley. There was a strange uneasiness in the air. A call from a friend, an operation, then an infection. The friend told the doctor about his night sweats, told the doctor he'd jump out the window if it had been open. Then a misdiagnosis. Now another operation necessary. No money, his insurance expired, and $20,000 needed. What to do, who to call. Joe helplessly watched the moths. They were going to eat everything. His phone rang again. He did not pick up. He didn't want to buy anything, sell anything, didn't want to talk. Joe wasn't easy to reach. He rarely gave out his number. He said smoke signals worked best, or divine coincidence. People found him soon enough. Last month, he'd been visited by a spirit on her last round before leaving her body. It was his best pal Eddie's mother, or her ghost, or not a ghost yet, just a whisper in the dark. Goodbye, dear friend. Love is eternal. This world, next world, all the same. Essence is everything. 2 days later, she was dead, and Joe was not surprised. Joe tried to quiet his mind. Shh, he thought. Shh. Listen. Bells clanging, wind in the trees, and birdsong. Listen to the space between the notes, the sound between the sounds. Empty the mind. Smell warm wind and flowers. Smell damp earth and desire. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love. There is always music for those who listen. Later he wrote, "The sun and the moon do not care about me. The mountain, the cloud, if I am here or not, they do not care. The birds will sing without me, and the wasps will build their hives." That should be a clue.
Japanese flute after rain. A bird separated from its mate. The beginning of the world. A world close to all but them. A sudden cry. Was it the lost lover? Was it a soul still unformed? Joe was low. His life force flamed and fizzed. The embers of his heart had lost precious heat. His technicolor palette had been dialed down to thin browns, ashy grays, muted blues. Yeah, this happens sometimes, no biggie. Every soul is a melody which needs renewing, wrote Stephen Mallarmé. And Joe had unshakable faith that out of noise would come harmony. Blow in the coals, relight the soul. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bop. Yeah, blow cat blow, express the inexpressible. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-bop. Paint low down silver sound on silence. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bop. And soon, melancholy was replaced by magic. The mundane was swept away by the uncanny. And the ordinary was again extraordinary. All was swell in Checkerville.
Joe walked his dog past a big house. The neighbor on house arrest for price fixing. The music was playing loud. Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week. The clouds come, the clouds go. Coastal fog drips from trees. A bird calls, a dog barks, a car door shuts. It's all music, if I deem it so, thought Joe. His jukebox thoughts wandered to live in the lush life in some small dive. That Sunday, that summer, Monday, Tuesday weld, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. Splish splash, I was taking a bath, long about a Friday night, or was that a Saturday night? But Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week. Then Joe noticed words painted on the pavement. He tried to read them as signs, as hieroglyphs, for meaning. It looked like road repair, but it could be the vanguard of the revolution.